Commander Ji-won sat in his captain's chair, staring at the view screen. Empty space stretched before him, dark and silent. His ship, the Horizon's Edge, drifted slowly through the outer reaches, a region where few travelers ever came. They had been on this mission for 3 weeks now, searching for anything unusual. So far, they had found nothing. Ji-won was young for a commander, only 34 years old. He had earned his position through years of careful work and steady dedication. He loved exploring space, discovering new things. His crew respected him because he never asked them to take foolish risks. Today started like any other day. The crew ran their checks. The sensors scanned the area. Everything seemed normal. Then the alarms began to sound. Captain Eunji rushed to her station. She was the ship's engineer, brilliant with technology. Her fingers flew across the controls as she read the data. Her face went pale. "Commander," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "We have massive energy readings ahead. Something big is coming through." Ji-won leaned forward. On the screen, space itself seemed to twist and bend. Colors that should not exist swirled together. A hole opened in reality, and through it came a ship. But calling it a ship was like calling a mountain a rock. The vessel was enormous, bigger than anything Ji-won had ever seen. It made his own ship look like a toy. The hull was dark metal, scarred and ancient. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly. "What is that?" someone whispered. Eunji worked frantically at her console. She pulled up old database files, searching for answers. When she found what she was looking for, her hand stopped moving. "Those symbols," she said slowly. "They are Old Earth script. That ship is human." The bridge fell silent. Old Earth meant ancient history. Humanity had not built ships like that for thousands of years. The designs, the technology, everything had been lost or forgotten long ago. Ji-won tried to contact the strange vessel. He sent messages in every language and frequency. Nothing came back. The giant ship just floated there, silent and dark. Its power readings were minimal, barely enough to keep basic systems running. "It looks dead," Eunji said, "like it has been sleeping for a very long time." Ji-won made a decision. He knew it was risky, but he had to know more. This discovery was too important to ignore. "Prepare a boarding team," he ordered. "We are going inside." 2 hours later, Ji-won floated through the airlock and into the ancient ship. 5 crew members came with him, including Eunji. They wore environment suits and carried lights. The ship's interior was completely dark. Their lights revealed corridors that seemed to go on forever. The walls were smooth metal, still intact after all these years. Everything was perfectly preserved, frozen in time. They saw signs of old battle damage, scorch marks from weapons, holes punched through bulkheads. "This ship saw combat," one of the crew said nervously. They moved deeper into the vessel. Eunji used her scanner to map their path. She also searched for the ship's main computer core. If they could access it, they might learn this vessel's secrets. They found the command center after an hour of searching. It was a massive room filled with consoles and displays. Everything was powered down, waiting silently in the darkness. But one thing caught Ji-won's attention. Along the far wall stood rows of glass pods. Most were empty or contained bodies that had died long ago. But one pod still glowed with a soft blue light. Something inside was alive. Ji-won approached carefully. Inside the pod lay a woman. She looked to be in her 40s with short dark hair and a strong face. She wore a military uniform, old style but unmistakably human. Frost covered the glass, but he could see her chest rising and falling slowly. She was breathing. Eunji checked the pod's systems. Her eyes went wide. "Commander, this pod has been running for over 10,000 years. The person inside is in cryosleep. She is alive." Ji-won looked at the nameplate on the pod. "Admiral Hyon," it read. "Commander, 3rd Fleet." His heart raced. 3rd Fleet was legendary, part of old stories that no one believed anymore. Tales of great wars fought long ago when humanity had been something different, something powerful and terrifying. "Can we wake her?" Ji-won asked. Eunji studied the controls. They were old but still functional. She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, the pod can complete its wake cycle. But Commander, are you sure? We do not know what she will do. We do not know what this ship really is." Ji-won thought about it. This woman had been sleeping for 10,000 years. She deserved to wake up. Besides, she might have answers to questions humanity had been asking for centuries. "Do it," he said. Eunji pressed a sequence of controls. The pod hummed to life. Lights flickered on across the command center as the pod drew power. The frost on the glass began to melt. Inside, Admiral Hyon's eyes opened. She looked confused at first, then focused. The pod door slid open with a hiss of escaping air. She stepped out slowly, steadying herself against the pod. Her eyes found Jiwon. She straightened up, her military bearing returning instantly. "Report," she said. Her voice was rough from long sleep but carried clear authority. "Where is the enemy fleet? What is our situation?" Jiwon did not know how to answer. How do you tell someone they have been asleep for 10,000 years? That their war is ancient history? That the world they knew is gone? "Admiral," he said gently, "there is no enemy fleet. The war is over. It has been over for a very long time." Hyun looked at him with confusion, then at the command center, then at her crew around her. She walked to a console and touched it. The screen came to life, showing star charts and dates. She stared at the date for a long moment. Her face showed no emotion, but Jiwon saw her hands grip the console edge tightly. 10,000 years, she whispered, then louder, her voice harder. 10,000 years. She turned to Jiwon. Her eyes were cold now, calculating. "Who are you? Where is Earth? What happened while I slept?" Jiwon introduced himself and tried to explain. He told her about modern humanity, about Earth's place in the galaxy now. He explained that humans were peaceful now, explorers and traders, not warriors. Hyun listened without interrupting. When he finished, she asked one simple question. "What happened to the fleet?" "Gone," Jiwon said. "Destroyed or scrapped after the war ended. Humanity gave up its weapons and chose peace." Something flickered across Hyun's face. Surprise, anger, sadness. Jiwon could not tell. She walked to another console and began entering commands. The ship responded to her touch. Systems that had been dark for millennia began to wake up. Lights came on throughout the command center. "This ship," she said, "is called the Eternal Sentinel. It is a Harbinger-class dreadnought, the most powerful warship humanity ever built." She paused. "There were 7 of us." She pulled up old files, reading quickly. Jiwon watched her face grow darker with each screen. "I need to speak with Earth Command," she said. "Immediately." Before Jiwon could respond, alarms began sounding on his suit radio. Hyunji grabbed his arm. "Commander!" The ship's main reactor just came online. "It is generating enormous power. Our sensors cannot measure it all." Hyun smiled slightly. It was not a warm smile. "Good, the Sentinel is waking up. Now let us see if the galaxy remembers what it means when a Guardian opens its eyes." Jiwon felt a chill run down his spine. He had found something ancient and powerful. He had awakened something that should have stayed asleep. And now across the galaxy, warning systems were starting to scream as they detected an energy signature that had not existed for 10,000 years. The signature of humanity's greatest weapon? The signature of war itself returned from the grave. The Galactic Council building stood at the heart of Unity Station, a massive structure built by 100 different species. Today, its grand chamber filled with representatives from across the galaxy, all speaking at once. Fear filled the air. Councillor Thexnar stood at his podium trying to bring order to the chaos. He was old, very old for his species. His skin had faded to pale gray and his 4 arms trembled slightly. But his voice still carried authority. "Silence," he commanded. The chamber quieted. "I know you are afraid. I am afraid too. I remember the old war. Most of you are too young to remember, but I was there. I saw what humanity could do." A younger counselor stood up. She was from a species that had only joined the council 50 years ago. "The humans are weak now," she said. "They have no great fleets. They control only a few dozen worlds. Why should we fear one old ship?" Thexnar looked at her with sad eyes. "Because that is not just one old ship. That is a harbinger. Do you know what that means?" He paused. "My people once thought as you do. We attacked 3 human colonies. We thought we were strong. Humanity responded by conquering our entire empire in 60 days. They could have destroyed us completely. They chose not to. That mercy terrified us more than their weapons." The chamber fell silent. On the main screen, sensor data played over and over. The energy signature from the Eternal Sentinel. The power readings that broke every scale. Ambassador Minho entered the chamber. He was Earth's representative to the Council. He was a careful, thoughtful man who had spent decades building bridges between humanity and other species. Now those bridges felt very fragile. "Ambassador," Thexnar said, "can you explain this? Where did this ship come from? We were told all Harbinger-class vessels were destroyed. Minho spread his hands. He looked tired. I have no answers for you. Earth records from that time are incomplete. Much was lost in the years after the war. I am trying to learn more, but this ship appeared without warning. We are as surprised as you are. Not good enough, someone shouted. Other voices joined in, angry and afraid. Meanwhile, aboard the Eternal Sentinel, Admiral Hyan stood in the command center. She had been awake for 6 hours now. She spent that time reading reports and accessing what remained of the ship's database. With each file she read, her expression grew colder. Commander Jiwan watched her carefully. He had sent messages to Earth Command explaining everything. Now they waited for orders. The silence between them felt heavy. Finally, Hyan spoke. Tell me about humanity's military, she said. How many ships? What class? What weapons? Jiwan hesitated. The numbers felt shameful now compared to what she must remember. We have about 200 ships total. Most are small patrol craft or cargo vessels. We have 12 proper warships, all cruiser class or smaller. Our weapons are standard kinetic and energy types, nothing special. We have defense platforms around our core worlds, but they are old. Hyan stared at him. 200 ships, for all of humanity. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. In my time, Earth had 15,000 warships. The Third Fleet alone commanded 3,000 vessels. We had weapons that could crack moons. We had shields that could withstand a star's heat. And we were not even the strongest fleet. She turned to the window, looking out at the stars. What happened? Why did humanity become so weak? Jiwan gathered his courage. History says that after the Old War, humanity sued for peace. The galaxy was tired of fighting. Earth agreed to disarm, to destroy the war fleets. We promised to stay out of galactic politics. In return, other species left us alone. We chose peace over power. Hyan spun around. Her eyes blazed with anger. That is not what happened. We did not sue for peace, we won. We won so completely, so totally, that the entire galaxy begged us to stop. They offered us anything. Control of trade routes, tribute, territory. They would have made us emperors if we asked. She pulled up files on the main screen. Old battle reports, treaties, diplomatic messages. Look, read these. Earth agreed to peace not because we were losing. We agreed because we were tired of winning. Billions of our people had died. Entire colonies were gone. We had become monsters to win that war, and we hated what we had become. So we made a deal. Jiwan read the files. His world shifted. Everything he thought he knew about human history was wrong. Or at least incomplete. The Silent Accord, Hyan continued. That was its name. Earth would disarm. We would destroy most of the fleet and withdraw from galactic affairs. In return, the galaxy swore an oath. No species would threaten human worlds. No one would attack Earth or its colonies. Both sides kept it secret to prevent panic. But something went wrong, Jiwan said. Beginning to understand. Hyan nodded. The Eternal Sentinel was supposed to lead a patrol fleet back to Earth for the final disarmament ceremony. We never arrived. Someone ambushed us near the Void Expanse. We fought, but there were too many enemies. My ship was damaged. We had to retreat through a spatial anomaly. The fleet thought we were destroyed. She looked around the command center at the scorch marks still visible on some walls. I ordered everyone into cryosleep. I thought we would drift for a few years until rescue came. I did not know the anomaly would trap us for 10,000 years. Captain Unji, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. Admiral, if what you say is true, then the galaxy has forgotten. They think humanity was always peaceful. They think we were always weak, exactly, Hyan said grimly. And that makes us vulnerable. If they do not fear us, they will not respect us. If they do not respect us, they will attack. The Silent Accord only works if both sides remember what happens when it breaks. Before anyone could respond, an alert sounded. Yunji checked her console. Commander, I am detecting multiple ships approaching. Large fleet. They are not broadcasting friendly signals. Jiwan moved to the sensor station. What he saw made his blood run cold. 300 warships, all bearing the symbol of the Keltharian Dominion, one of the more aggressive species in the galaxy. They were arranging themselves in attack formation. A message came through. Chancellor Rixall appeared on screen. He was a large being covered in thick armor plating. His voice was deep and confident. Human vessel, this is Chancellor Rixall of the Keltharian Dominion. Your ship is a threat to galactic peace. The Council has authorized me to take control of your vessel and imprison your crew. You will surrender immediately or we will take you by force. Jiwan looked at Hyun. She stood perfectly still, studying the tactical display. She counted the ships, analyzed their formations, assessed their weapons. Then she smiled. It was a cold smile, predatory. "Open a channel," she ordered. The screen flickered. Chancellor Rixel looked annoyed. "Who are you?" he demanded. "I am Admiral Hyan of Earth's Third Fleet, commander of the Harbinger-class dreadnought Eternal Sentinel. You have 30 seconds to withdraw your forces or I will destroy them. This is your only warning." Rixel laughed. It was a harsh, mocking sound. "You face 300 warships with one old vessel. You are either insane or stupid. Fleet, prepare to fire. Show them what happens when humans forget their place." Hyan cut the connection. She walked to the command chair and sat down. Her hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. The Eternal Sentinel began to wake fully. Weapon systems came online. Shields powered up. The ship hummed with barely contained energy. Jiwan wanted to protest. 300 to 1 was impossible odds. They should run. They should surrender. But something in Hyun's expression stopped him. She did not look worried. She looked like a teacher about to give a very hard lesson. "All crew to battle stations," she said calmly. "Engage defensive protocols. Prepare for combat." The Keltharian fleet opened fire. 300 ships launched missiles and energy beams at the Eternal Sentinel. The space between them filled with deadly light. Hyun pressed a single button. The galaxy was about to remember what it meant to face a human harbinger. And that lesson would be written in fire and fear. The battle lasted 7 minutes. When it ended, 247 Keltharian warships were destroyed. The rest fled in panic. The Eternal Sentinel had not received a single scratch, not one human casualty. Admiral Hyan had been operating at 37% capacity. Across the galaxy, military command centers watched the sensor recordings in stunned silence. They played it back again and again, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. It should have been impossible. One ship against 300. It should have been a massacre. It was. Just not the massacre anyone expected. The Eternal Sentinel had not even used its heavy weapons. Its point defense systems alone tore through the Keltharian attack like paper. Its railguns punched through, shields that were supposed to be among the best in the galaxy. Its electronic warfare systems turned half the enemy fleet against itself, making them fire on their own ships. Military analysts worked through the night, running simulations. The results terrified them. A single Harbinger-class vessel could challenge most species' entire space navies. And humanity had built 7 of them, as prototypes, as practice runs before building something even more powerful. The Galactic Council called another emergency session. This time, no one spoke calmly. Panic filled the chamber. Multiple species demanded Earth's immediate disarmament. Others argued for a military blockade around human space. A few suggested negotiation, but fear drowned out their voices. Counselor Thexnar tried to maintain order, but even he looked shaken. He had seen humanity fight before, but that was 10,000 years ago. He had hoped time had dulled his memories, made them seem worse than reality. Now he knew. His memories were accurate. If anything, he had forgotten how terrifying humans truly were. Ambassador Minho received an urgent message from Earth. He was ordered to return home immediately for emergency consultations. He left the council building knowing that everything had changed. The careful peace he had spent decades building now hung by a thread. His shuttle took him to Earth, to the capital city where government leaders waited. When he entered the conference room, he found faces filled with worry and confusion. The Prime Minister sat at the head of the table, an older woman who had led Earth through 20 years of peace. She looked tired. "Ambassador," she said, "we have a situation. This ship, this Harbinger, has revealed things we hoped would stay buried. The galaxy is afraid. They think we lied to them. They think we have been hiding weapons all this time." Minho sat down heavily. "Have we? Have we been hiding weapons?" The military commander, General Daehyun, spoke up. He was a serious man who rarely smiled. "Not exactly. After the war, we did destroy most of our fleet as promised. But we kept some things. Defense platforms around our core worlds. Some mothballed ships in deep storage. Emergency protocols. We thought it was prudent just in case." "How much did we keep?" Minho asked. General Daehyun pulled up files on the main screen. Enough. The defense platforms are 300 years old, but they still work. They are still more advanced than anything currently in service galaxy-wide. We have been quietly maintaining them. If we activated everything, Earth alone could defend itself against a significant attack. The Prime Minister rubbed her temples. This is exactly what we feared. The galaxy thinks we are helpless. If they learn we have been maintaining military capability all along, they will see it as betrayal. Meanwhile, the Eternal Sentinel requested permission to dock at Earth. Admiral Hyon needed to understand what had happened to humanity. She needed to see what her species had become during her long sleep. Commander Jiwon accompanied her. He had become something of a guide for her, explaining the modern world. She listened to everything he said, but he could see judgment in her eyes. She saw humanity's peaceful present as weakness, a betrayal of everything she had fought for. When they arrived at Earth, Hyun stood at the window of the shuttle, watching her home planet grow larger. It looked the same: blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. But she knew everything else had changed. They were taken to military headquarters, where government leaders waited to meet her. The reunion was awkward. These people were her descendants in a way. They shared her species, her home, but not her time. They were strangers. The Prime Minister greeted her formally. Admiral Hyon, welcome home. We have many questions, and I am sure you do as well. Hyon nodded. I need access to the military archives. I need to know what happened after I disappeared. I need to understand why humanity chose to become so weak. The Prime Minister's expression hardened slightly. We are not weak, Admiral. We are different. There is a distinction. Hyon was given access to classified archives. She spent hours reading battle reports from the end of the war, casualty figures that made her sick, diplomatic negotiations, the signing of the Silent Accord, and finally, the reason Earth withdrew. The war had cost humanity dearly, 12 billion dead. 43 colonies destroyed completely. Earth itself had been attacked twice, barely holding off invasion. Yes, humanity won, but the victory was paid for in blood and tears and trauma that lasted generations. She read accounts from soldiers who could not sleep because of what they had seen, what they had done. She read about entire families lost, about orphans and widows, about a species that had become so good at killing that they terrified themselves. Commander Jiwon found her in the archives late that night. She sat at a console, staring at casualty lists. Her face showed emotion for the first time since she woke up. Grief. I knew some of these people, she said quietly. I served with them. I gave the orders that sent them to die. And for what? For a war we barely remember now? Jiwon sat down beside her. You saved humanity. The records show that. Your tactics, your leadership, they were crucial to winning the war. Hyun shook her head. We did not win. We just did not lose. There is a difference. And afterward, humanity was so tired, so broken, that they chose peace. Not because we were afraid of others, because we were afraid of ourselves. Afraid of what we would become if we kept fighting. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the city, lights everywhere, people going about their lives. Children playing in parks, a civilization that had been built on the foundation of hard-won peace. Show me the city, she said. I need to see what we built with our peace. Jiwon took her on a tour. They walked through crowded streets. They visited museums and schools. They watched people from a dozen different species trading, talking, living together. Earth had become a melting pot, a place where different cultures met and mixed. Hyun saw children laughing. She saw young couples holding hands. She saw elderly, people sitting in cafes discussing philosophy and art. She saw a world that had forgotten war. And slowly, something in her expression changed. This is what we fought for, she said finally. Not territory, not revenge. This, the chance for people to live without fear. But their peaceful moment was interrupted. Captain Yoonji contacted them urgently. Admiral Commander, you need to return to headquarters immediately. We have a situation. Back at military command, they found chaos. Intelligence reports flooded in. Multiple species were forming a coalition. Chancellor Rixell, humiliated by his defeat, was building alliances. He argued that if one Harbinger ship existed, others might. He proposed a preemptive strike against Earth before humanity could rebuild its war machine. General Daehyun showed them the numbers. 7 species had joined the coalition so far. Over 2,000 warships. They were assembling at the border of human space. Intelligence suggested they would attack within a week. The Prime Minister looked at Hyon. "Admiral, you have more experience with warfare than anyone alive. What should we do?" Hyon studied the tactical display. She could see the coalition's formation, their approach vectors, their probable strategies. Her mind automatically calculated responses, optimal attack patterns, how to defeat them. Then she looked at the casualty estimates. Even if Earth won, millions would die. The peace would be shattered. Everything humanity had built would be destroyed. They would become warriors again, and this time, there might be no coming back. She turned to the Prime Minister. "I have a recommendation. It is risky, but it might be our only chance to avoid war." "Tell me," the Prime Minister said. Hyon pulled up a classified file. "Very classified. Protocol Shepard," she said. It was a contingency plan. The Harbinger ships were never all destroyed. 6 remain, hidden in dead systems, waiting. They were humanity's insurance policy. If the silent accord was ever broken, they could be awakened. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at her. "You mean there are 6 more ships like the Eternal Sentinel?" General Daehyun asked. Hyon nodded. "Yes, sleeping, waiting. If we activate Protocol Shepard, they will wake up. And the galaxy will know that humanity still has teeth." The Prime Minister looked troubled. "But we promised. We swore we destroyed them all. If we reveal we kept them, we prove the galaxy right. We prove humans cannot be trusted. That is the dilemma," Hyon agreed. "Which is worse, breaking our word or allowing our extinction?" Captain Yoonji, who had been thinking hard, spoke up. "What if we do not actually wake them? What if we just make the galaxy think we did?" Everyone looked at her. She continued, "The Eternal Sentinel can generate false signatures. We make it look like 6 Harbinger ships are powering up across multiple systems. The false signatures worked perfectly. Across 6 different star systems, sensor networks detected Harbinger-class energy patterns coming online. From the outside, it looked exactly like 6 massive warships awakening from long sleep. Galactic military intelligence went into overdrive trying to confirm what their sensors were telling them. The coalition fleet, assembled at the border of human space, received the data. Panic spread through the command structure. Officers who had been confident just hours before now questioned their mission. 7 Harbinger ships total, 7 ships that could potentially destroy their entire fleet. Several species began withdrawing their forces. They had joined the coalition thinking it would be an easy victory, a way to eliminate a potential threat while humanity was still weak. But facing the awakening of humanity's legendary war fleet changed the equation completely. Chancellor Rixell watched his alliance crumble. He raged at his advisors, demanding they confirm the sensor readings. His military analysts worked frantically, trying to verify if the signatures were real. After hours of analysis, his chief intelligence officer delivered the verdict. "The signatures appear authentic, but we cannot confirm visual contact with any vessels. It is possible the humans are generating false readings." Rixell seized on this. "A bluff," he declared. "The humans are bluffing. They do not have 7 Harbingers. They only have 1. The rest is deception." He broadcast this conclusion to what remained of his coalition. Some believed him. Many did not. On Earth, Ambassador Minho worked through diplomatic channels trying to reach moderate voices in the coalition. He shared carefully selected historical records with council members who might listen. Not threats, just facts. Documentation of what humanity was capable of during the Old War. Councillor Thexnar became an unexpected ally. He began sharing his species' own historical archives, complete records from the war that his people had tried to forget. The footage showed battles where human fleets demonstrated terrifying efficiency, cities spared when they could have been destroyed, entire populations allowed to surrender when they could have been eliminated. The message was clear. Humanity did not win the old war through cruelty. They won through superior technology and tactics combined with strategic mercy. They were terrifying not because they killed without thought, but because they killed with precision and chose when to stop. But Chancellor Rixall refused to back down. He rallied the remaining coalition members. Over 800 ships stayed with him, crews who believed in his vision or feared him more than they feared humanity. He prepared to advance on Earth, declaring that humanity's bluff must be called. In the command center on Earth, alarms began sounding. The coalition fleet was moving. Estimated arrival time at Earth, 6 hours. The Prime Minister called an emergency meeting. Admiral Hyun, Commander Jiwon, General Daehyun, and Ambassador Minho gathered around the tactical display. 800 warships versus Earth's defenses and 1 harbinger. The odds were not good. General Daehyun outlined their options. We can activate all defense platforms. Combined with the Eternal Sentinel, we might hold them off. But casualties will be heavy even if we win. Minho shook his head. If we fight, we prove them right. We prove that humans are dangerous, that we should be eliminated. Even if we survive, we lose everything we have built. The Prime Minister looked at Hyun. Admiral, you have been quiet. What are you thinking? Hyun had been studying something on a separate console. She looked up, her expression troubled. I have been reviewing Protocol Shepard in detail. The 6 Harbinger ships are real. They are exactly where the old record said they would be. They have been maintained automatically all these years. I can wake them. I can bring them here in time to face the coalition fleet. The room fell silent. This was no longer a bluff. This was real. But if I do that, Hyun continued, we become the monsters again. 7 Harbingers against 800 ships. It will be a massacre. We will win, but at what cost? Not to us, to them. And to ourselves. We will have to live with being executioners. Jiwon spoke up. Then we do not wake them. We make our stand with what we have. If we are going to die, we die as we have lived. In peace. Hyun looked at him. In her eyes, Jiwon saw respect. This young commander, who had never fought a war, had more courage than most warriors she had known. He was willing to accept defeat rather than become a monster. But Hyun was not ready to accept defeat. Wait, she said. There might be another way. What if we wake only one? Just 1 harbinger to show the galaxy we are not bluffing. Not to fight, just to show we could if we wanted to. Captain Yoonji pulled up calculations. It would take 3 days to fully wake a harbinger ship. The coalition will be here in 6 hours. We do not have time. What if we start the wake sequence? Hyun asked. We send the activation signal now. It will take days for the ship to fully power up, but the initial energy spike will be immediate. The galaxy will see it. They will know we are not bluffing. Maybe that will be enough to make them stop. The Prime Minister considered this. It was a gamble. A huge gamble. But it was better than the alternatives. Do it, she ordered. Wake 1 ship. And pray it is enough. Hyun transmitted the activation codes. In a dead system 30 light-years away, in the Kepler shroud where few ships ever traveled, ancient systems began to stir. The Vigilant Dawn sister ship to the Eternal Sentinel started its awakening sequence. The energy spike was massive, impossible to miss. Every sensor array within 100 light-years detected it. This was not a false signature. This was real. A second harbinger was waking up. The coalition fleet received the data. Officers studied the readings. This signature was different from the others. It was genuine, which meant the humans had not been bluffing, which meant 6 harbinger ships really existed, which meant they were all fools for doubting. More ships began withdrawing. Captains who had stayed loyal to Rixall suddenly found reasons to return home. Equipment malfunctions, supply shortages, orders from their governments. Anything to avoid facing 7 harbingers, but Rixall held his core fleet together. 300 ships remained. He sent a message to his captains. The harbinger is waking, but it will take days to become fully operational. We will reach Earth in hours. We attack now before they can gather their full strength. We may never have another chance. The fleet advanced. Earth watched them come. Hyun prepared the Eternal Sentinel for battle. General Daehyun activated every defense platform. Minho sent final diplomatic messages pleading for sanity. None of it worked. The coalition fleet arrived at Earth's outer defensive perimeter. 300 warships arranged in attack formation. On Earth, billions of people looked up at the sky, wondering if this would be their last day. Chancellor Rixell broadcast his ultimatum. Surrender the Harbinger ships, submit to Council inspection, disarm completely, or we will pacify your planet by force. Hyan prepared her response. She thought about everything she had learned since waking, about the cost of war, about the value of peace, about what it meant to be a guardian rather than a warrior. She opened a channel, broadcasting to both fleets and the watching galaxy. Chancellor Rixell, you believe you face one ship. You are mistaken. You face an idea. The idea that humanity chose peace not from weakness but from strength. The idea that true power is knowing when not to use it. Attack us and you will learn why your ancestors signed the Silent Accord. You will learn why they feared us. Not because we were cruel, but because we were capable and chose mercy. She paused, letting her words sink in. The 7 harbingers exist. They are waking, but we do not want to use them. We want to return them to sleep. We want peace, but peace requires mutual respect. Attack us and we will defend ourselves, and you will discover that 10,000 years has not made us weak. It has made us patient. There is a difference. Rixell responded with anger and defiance, empty words from a dying species. Fleet, prepare to fire. The coalition ships powered their weapons. Earth's defenses went active. The Eternal Sentinel brought all systems online. In seconds, the first shots would be fired. The battle would begin. Then something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to tear open. Not one tier, but 6. 6 spatial anomalies opening simultaneously around Earth. And through them came 6 massive shapes. 6 Harbinger-class dreadnoughts, their hulls dark and scarred. Their weapons arrays glowing with power. They should not have been there. It should have taken days for them to wake fully. More time to travel to Earth. But they had received Hyan's distress call. And they had found a way. Using the same spatial anomaly technology that had trapped the Eternal Sentinel for 10,000 years, they had cut through space itself. The shepherds had arrived. All of them. And the galaxy stood silent in shock. 7 Harbinger-class dreadnoughts hung in space around Earth, their weapon systems active, their shields glowing. The coalition fleet faced them in stunned silence. Every calculation, every simulation, every plan suddenly meant nothing. The math was simple and brutal. 7 harbingers versus 300 ships meant death for the coalition. Chancellor Rixell stared at his tactical display. His confidence drained away, replaced by cold fear. He had been so certain the humans were bluffing, so certain they were weak. Now he knew the terrible truth. Humanity had never been weak. They had chosen to appear weak. There was a vast difference. Aboard the Eternal Sentinel, Admiral Hyan stood in the command center. She had not expected this. She thought she would have days before the other harbingers could arrive. Instead, they had come immediately, using technology she barely understood. The anomaly drives had advanced during her long sleep. But now they were here. 7 harbingers, 7 instruments of destruction. She could end this battle in minutes. She could destroy the coalition fleet completely. Every calculation told her it would be easy. Too easy. Commander Jiwan watched her face. He saw the warrior calculating, planning, analyzing. But he also saw something else. Doubt. Regret. The woman who had woken up ready to fight was now questioning whether fighting was the answer. "Admiral," he said quietly. "What are your orders?" Hyan looked at him. She thought about the archives she had read, the billions who died in the old war, the trauma that lasted generations, the reason humanity chose peace. She thought about the city she had walked through, the children playing, the couples holding hands, the civilization built on hard-won wisdom. "I need to speak with Chancellor Rixell," she said. "Open a private channel." The connection was made. Rixell appeared on screen, trying to maintain his composure but clearly shaken. "Chancellor," Hyan said, "I want to show you something. I am sending you a tactical analysis. Study it carefully." She transmitted detailed battle plans. They showed exactly how she would destroy his fleet, which ships would die first, how she would break his formations, the timeline of his fleet's annihilation, 12 minutes from first shot to complete destruction. Estimated casualties, 150,000 personnel. Rixall read the analysis. His hands trembled. It was not just the death toll, it was the precision, the efficiency, the calm, clinical way she presented it. Like discussing the weather, not mass slaughter. Now let me explain why I will not do this, Hyan continued. Not because I cannot, not because I am afraid, but because humanity's greatest strength is not in these ships. Our strength is in choosing not to use them. We have the power to destroy you. We are choosing not to. That is real power. She leaned forward, her voice intense. 10,000 years ago, I would have fired without hesitation. I would have seen you as an enemy to eliminate. But I have learned something since I woke. I have seen what humanity built with peace. I have seen the cost of war. And I understand now why my people made the choices they did. What do you want? Rixall asked, his voice hoarse. New terms, Hyan said. Your fleet withdraws immediately. You return to your territory. In exchange, Earth will share defensive technology with all Council species, not weapons, defense, shields, sensors, medical technology, enough for you to protect yourselves but not enough to threaten your neighbors. The Harbingers will return to sleep, except for the Eternal Sentinel, which becomes Earth's mobile embassy. And if I refuse, then I will show you why the galaxy feared us. But I do not want to do that. Please, do not make me become that person again. Before Rixall could answer, another voice joined the conversation. Counselor Thexnar, broadcasting from the Council chambers. His transmission was public, sent to every ship in both fleets and to the entire galaxy. Chancellor Rixall, I am transmitting historical records from the old war. Unedited, complete. I ask every captain in your fleet to watch them, see what humanity truly was, see what they chose to become, and understand why attacking them is suicide not just for your bodies but for your souls. The recordings played across every screen, battle footage from the old war, not propaganda, raw combat data. The Coalition crews watched in growing horror. They saw human fleets destroy enemies with terrifying efficiency. But more importantly, they saw the mercy. Cities spared, populations evacuated before strikes, enemy wounded treated, surrender accepted. Again and again, humanity choosing to stop when they could have continued. They saw one battle in particular. The Third Fleet, commanded by Admiral Hyan, facing a desperate enemy. The enemy had committed atrocities, killed civilians, broken every rule of war. Hyan could have annihilated them. Instead, she disabled. Their ships took them prisoner and held war crimes trials. Justice, not revenge. The Coalition fleet began to fracture. Ship captains contacted their commanders, demanding to know why they were attacking the species that had shown such restraint in the past. Crews mutinied. Entire ships broke formation and withdrew. Rixall watched his fleet disintegrate, his power, his authority, his grand coalition all collapsing. He had one card left to play. In desperation and rage, he ordered his flagship to ram Earth itself. His ship carried banned antimatter weapons. If he was going to fail, he would take Earth with him. His ship broke formation, accelerating toward Earth at maximum speed. Alarms sounded across the planet. Billions of people looked up, seeing death approaching. The Eternal Sentinel moved. Not slowly, not carefully. With blinding speed, it intercepted Rixall's flagship. A single precision strike disabled the engines without breaching the antimatter containment, without killing the crew. The flagship tumbled through space, dead in the void, but intact. Hyan broadcast one final message to the galaxy. This is what guardianship means. The power to destroy and the wisdom to spare. We did not kill Chancellor Rixall. We stopped him. We will turn him over to Council justice. And we will return our weapons to sleep, because they should only wake when there is no other choice. The remaining coalition ships withdrew. Without Rixall, without purpose, without the will to fight an enemy that refused to be the monster they expected. The battle ended, not with fire, but with silent retreat. 6 months passed. The galaxy settled into an uneasy new reality. Earth's technology sharing program began, strengthening defenses across dozens of worlds. Trade increased. Species that had barely spoken to humans before now sought partnerships. The Galactic Council formally acknowledged the historical record. They apologized for forcing Earth into isolation, for forgetting the true story of the old war. They created a new position, High Counselor, and offered it to humanity. Ambassador Minho accepted, becoming the first human to hold such rank. The 6 harbingers returned to their hidden berths, systems quiet once more. They would sleep, waiting for a crisis that hopefully would never come. But they were there. Insurance. Guardians in the darkness. Admiral Hyan chose not to return to sleep. Earth's government asked her to stay awake, to teach. She accepted a position at the Strategic Academy training young officers, not in tactics alone, but in philosophy, when to fight. More importantly, when not to fight. Commander Ji-won, promoted to captain, took command of the Horizon's Edge on a new mission. Not exploration alone, but cultural diplomacy. His crew included members from 7 species, learning to work together, building bridges. Captain Yoonji led a joint research team studying ancient human technology, not to weaponize it, but to understand. Knowledge that could benefit all species, medical advances, environmental restoration, technology for life, not death. One evening, Hyun stood in an observation deck on Earth, watching the planet rotate below. Ji-won joined her. They had become friends, the ancient warrior and the modern explorer, 2 sides of humanity, learning from each other. Do you think they will remember? Ji-won asked. That we chose peace? Hyun was quiet for a moment, thinking. They will remember that when the Guardian awoke, the galaxy stood silent in shock. Not because we threatened them, but because we did not. That is the legacy worth leaving. Power without cruelty, strength with wisdom, the ability to destroy, and the courage not to. Will you ever go back to sleep? Ji-won asked. Return to cryo. Wait for the next crisis. Hyun shook her head. No. I slept for 10,000 years. I missed everything. My friends, my family, my entire world. I will not miss this one. This world of peace. This is what we fought for, even if we did not know it at the time. She looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, 6 harbingers rested in darkness. Weapons that chose peace. Warriors that found a better way. The galaxy changed after the day the Guardian awoke. Fear transformed into respect. Suspicion became cooperation. Species that had barely tolerated each other began working together, learning from humanity's example. Not everyone accepted the new order. There were still conflicts, still problems, still species that saw Earth as a threat. But now, when disputes arose, both sides remembered the harbingers. They remembered that humanity could destroy them but chose not to. That memory made negotiation easier, compromise more attractive. Young people across the galaxy studied human history, trying to understand how a species could be so powerful, yet so restrained. Teachers used it as a lesson. True civilization, they said, is measured not by the ability to wage war, but by the wisdom to avoid it.